Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Hopefully, you all had a good weekend. I know I did. I finally got to sit down and watch some Overwatch League for the first time in probably a couple weeks, so I enjoyed the homestand event. Hopefully, you did too. Let's go ahead and dig into everything that happened last week in Overwatch League and Contenders news that I think you should know about from April 22nd to April 28th. We're actually going to start with Tuesday, April 23rd, when the Uprising Academy released their head coach, I.O. Stux. Now, he was previously with XL2, but when he came over to the Uprising Academy, they just had a pretty disappointing season in Overwatch Contenders NA East, where they finished 1-6, last place in their group. So it's not really surprising that they've let him go, but hopefully he'll be able to find a new opportunity somewhere else soon. Dashing forward to Thursday, April 25th, this is a big one. I know a lot of people are excited about this. It's the Overwatch World Cup 2019. It's finally been announced. People were starting to get antsy, wondering if it was going to actually happen or not, and it will. The difference is there will be a new format, and it will not feature players under 18 years old. Now, this is a topic that I think is pretty contentious, but at the end of the day, I guess it makes sense. There is a lot of liability that goes along with having kids travel around the world to compete. So if you have kids coming from, Europe or from Asia coming over to America to compete in the World Cup, the fact that they're minors, there's like extra legal issues to deal with. So I understand why Blizzard might want to not deal with that. And I saw a comment on Reddit, a comment thread saying, well, they've had kids under 18 in the past compete. What makes it different this year? And somebody else said there was probably a behind the scenes problem last year that made them finally cut it and say we can't deal with this anymore. So that's really unfortunate because I know a lot of teams have kids, 17 years old, 16 years old that are really good at the game that will suffer now because of this. And on top of that, the World Cup, what made it great was that it was an opportunity for people to see some of these young guns in action, and it worked sort of like a scouting process. We're not going to get that as much this year. It'll now be more of a showcase for people who either already are in the league or are of age to jump in at any moment. So it'll be a little bit different, but you can check up all the details on the website. I'll put a link to the information in the description, but the format will be changing. So there won't be group stages around the world like there were in previous years. Maybe it's a cost-cutting thing. Maybe it's because they don't have enough time to do it all. I'm not sure what the deal is, but I would assume that they're making this a quicker World Cup because of the Overwatch League schedule. But what's basically going to happen is the whole thing will be held at BlizzCon. Some teams will have to play in group stages. Some teams will automatically advance past the group stages based on previous years of experience. There's also this weird ranking system where teams who have done well at the World Cup in the past will automatically get all of their travel paid for everyone. And to me, that's kind of unfortunate because you don't need Team USA to have their travel paid for. No offense. Like, you don't need Team Canada to have their travel paid for. Those teams, A, are fairly close to BlizzCon, and B, they have the funding already, I would assume. Or, like, most of their players are already in the league. They could probably drop a couple $100 to go play at BlizzCon if they needed to. What I loved seeing in previous World Cups was teams who came from random countries, popped up out of nowhere, or even like Great Britain. Remember when the UK, really took it to teams last year? That was fun to watch. I think those are the sort of teams, like, pick from a lottery of previous teams that didn't do well and help them pay for their travel. That could be cool. But giving extra money to the people who we already know are going to be there anyway seems a little bit weird. But that's beside the point. You can check up all the details. I don't want to, take too much time on this. But the World Cup has been announced, and you can read about it. Link is in the description if you would like. That same day, they also dropped some info about the All-Star game. And if you've been watching the homestand event this past weekend, maybe you've seen the skins in the All-Star skins in the commercial breaks. So they are confirmed, the ones we talked about last week. The All-Star event will take place Wednesday, May 15th and Thursday, May 16th. And again, you can check the website that I'll link in the description if you want to read more about it. But during the All-Star event, token drops for Overwatch League tokens will be doubled. So you'll get 6 per hour instead of 3. So that's cool. There's going to be the talent takedown again, where the casters and the analysts play in a best of 3. There's going to be a Widowmaker 1v1, of course. But then this year's All-Star arcade events were voted by people on Twitter. So there were 8 different arcade mode events that Overwatch League tweeted out asking people, what do you want to see? And they put them in polls with 4 options in each poll. So the 2 winners were Healers Never Die, which is basically 6v6 only healers, only support characters. And the other winner was Sibling Rivalry, which is 3 Hanzos and 3 Genjis per team. It's a Shimada Bros rivalry. So if those end up being the options, that if they just choose directly what people wanted the most, then that's what we're going to see for some of the fun events. Yeah, so that'll be coming up fairly soon. It's amazing that we're already almost halfway through the season. But yeah, that's the information for the All-Star event for this year. Friday, April 26th, Bud Light came on as a sponsor for the Overwatch League. So they slid right in there right as the homestand event was about to get started. Of course, Bud Light is a really popular beer here in the US. They sponsor a lot of different sporting events, sporting leagues. So it does make sense for them to sponsor the Overwatch League. It's a little weird because they're a family-friendly event, right? You want the Overwatch League to be, broadcast on Disney XD, so you're not going to run a beer advertisement on Disney XD when you broadcast. But most people who watch the league are over 18 or over 21, as you have to be in America to drink. So it is a pretty smart investment, I think. You look at the people in the crowd at the arena, and to buy a ticket and drive to the arena, chances are you're old enough to drink. If you looked at the people in the crowd, they could have been holding Bud Lights. So, a beer sponsorship makes sense to me. So it's kind of cool that they've got now like Coca-Cola and Bud Light, which are 2 of the biggest drink sponsorships that they could have gotten. So they're really legitimizing themselves as a league in terms of their sponsorships, and I think that's great. That same day, Friday, the London Spitfire added Quartermain. So Apex fans may remember Quartermain as a healer, support player from way back then. He played with AF Red or the Afrika Freaks during Apex seasons 1 through 4. Wasn't picked up for the Overwatch League. I believe he stepped away from the game. I didn't watch Apex when it was around, so I can't remember if he retired or if he just was never picked up. But he's back, so a lot of people are happy about that. It is cool to see a lot of those old school players coming back, because even though I didn't watch Apex, so I don't have like a personal connection to them, I know what it's like to have like a fan favorite return, right? So I watch American football. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So there was a player a few years ago who retired. He stayed retired for 1 year, and then he came back because he got bored or whatever. And it was cool to see him walk back onto the field. So I know what it feels like to see one of your favorite players come back. So unfortunately, the London Spitfire didn't have a great time at the homestand event. They lost to Chengdu. That was a fun game. Go watch that one. That was really fun. But I guess we'll see if Quartermain ends up being a big part of their roster as we go along. Also on Friday, Meta Gaming and Skyfoxes teamed up. It seems to me that this is just a rebranding for Skyfoxes. I think it's the same roster, but instead of just being called Skyfoxes, since they've now teamed up with Meta Gaming, they're called Meta Skyfoxes. I don't think functionally this changes anything about the players on the team. I don't think it was a merger of rosters, just a rebranding of the Skyfoxes roster. So you can check out their reveal video as well. I'll put that link in the description too. The final bit of news comes on Sunday, April 28th. Dia announced on the Chinese social media site Weibo that he's returning to China for 2 weeks due to a family matter. If I remember correctly, this isn't the first time he's done this. I think season 1 he also had to go back to China for a little bit. So it's unfortunate that he keeps having these issues that delay him. But with any luck, maybe he'll be able to come back in good timing. It's always weird when it comes to Chinese players and their visas. People like Yang Xiaolong or Jiqiren having trouble actually getting back into the country or getting to the country for the first time. So hopefully his visa doesn't delay him on the way back and he actually can come back before stage 3. That would be nice. You never want to see a player not be able to play in the league. It's just not fair to him, not fair to his team, not fair to the viewers. So hopefully everything's okay for him and he'll be back very soon. So yeah, I think that caps up everything. Of course, the homestand event did occur. It was a lot of fun to watch. There was a huge just energy in the arena. You could feel it through the stream, especially during the Battle for Texas when Houston and Dallas were playing. The crowd was going nuts, and that's the kind of energy that I love. That's the kind of energy we need for esports, and I think it's a huge thing. Like, this shows to me that live events, live home events in home cities really will work. And seeing esports localized to big cities is an amazing accomplishment. I can't wait to see what they do in Season 3. I can't wait to see what happens even this season when they head over to like Atlanta. But it was a fun event to watch. Of course, like I said a few minutes ago, watch that London versus Chengdu game. That was an amazing matchup. The Dallas and Houston game was fun, even if it was kind of a 3-1 rout. But it was fun to watch, fun to see the walkouts. It was nice and wholesome to see OG cry at the end. We'll talk about stuff like that later, but enjoyed the homestand event. Hopefully you did too, and I look forward to seeing what happens as we move closer to the Stage 2 playoffs and to the All-Star break. So thank you all for watching. This is the Haitian Homie signing off, and I will catch you all later. See you guys.